Karen Reed and her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, were bar hopping on a snowy night in Massachusetts. At the end of the night, they were invited to a house party at the home of a fellow officer in Canton, Massachusetts. When Karen and John arrived, Karen did not exit the car. John did. From that point forward, there are two very different versions of what happened. Prosecutors say Karen was mad at John and purposely struck him with her car and left him on the ground to die in the snow. But Karen and her defense team say John went to the party. Something terrible happened inside the house, and his body was placed outside, where he was found dead the next morning. Karen has been charged with murder, but claims she is the victim of a big cover-up by police. The battle inside the courtroom and outside the courthouse has been intense. Prosecutors insisting Karen Reed is a murderer, while she insists it was someone inside the house that night who is responsible for what happened to her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. And now, reports that the investigators are being investigated by the feds. Tonight, we get all the latest as we continue our investigation into the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Excuse me. It's the weather, folks. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. This is a case unlike any case I've ever covered. What is happening up there in Dedham, Massachusetts at the courthouse, in Canton, Massachusetts, where all this happened, the protest, the support for someone accused of murdering a Boston police officer, it's unreal. And every time I do this story, I get all these direct messages and notes, some of them a little heated, from both sides of this controversy. No one is happy, and that tells me that this is different than most of the murder trials that we cover here, and that I've been covering for years. And it all begins as a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. He's dead. He's dead. The question is, how did this happen? Who is responsible? And obviously, as you heard, there are two completely different stories, versions, narratives of what happened the night that John O'Keefe was killed and then found dead in the snow. On the one hand, you have prosecutors saying that this was a crime of passion. These were two lovers who had an argument, and she was angry, and she struck him with her car and left him there in the cold to die in the snow. That it was about a relationship gone bad, and a woman who was angry, and that's why she did it. That's one version. That's what the prosecution has said. A lot of times you don't get another version, especially before a trial, but in this case you have. And the defense and Karen Reed are saying, no, it wasn't me. It was someone inside the house, and this was a police cover-up. It was a police party, and it was an investigation that was done by people connected to people in the house. And that's a problem. And it's a huge cover-up, and she's being framed for all of this. So there's a lot to get to every time we do this story. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of evidence. But now there's a new report. Boston 25, one of the local stations up there, has been doing amazing work on this. Real big reveal that caught my attention, is catching a lot of people's attention. Take a look. 25 Investigates has learned that the Norfolk County District Attorney, Michael Morrissey, sent a letter to the Department of Justice. Those are the feds, folks, okay? So you've got the local prosecutor sending a letter to the feds requesting that the federal probe of the Karen Reed case be transferred out of Massachusetts. The feds up there are looking at this investigation. Morrissey's letter provides the first official confirmation that the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts is looking into the arrest and prosecution of Reed. So in the middle of trying to prosecute someone for murder, the feds are looking at the people who investigated the case and investigated Karen Reed. This is highly unusual. But big news. Joining us tonight from Boston, Massachusetts, the investigative reporter at Boston 25 News, Ted Daniel, is with us. Ted, great to see you tonight. Unbelievable work and investigation you guys are doing. Before we get to all that, let me just take a step back. And your analysis of this story, this case, this trial, everything that's happening. I'm feeling down here in Atlanta that things are at a fevered temperature up there with everyone involved. What's your take?
Well, like you, I'm getting the same DMs and emails from people who are vested in this case. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've covered a lot of high-profile cases, including Aaron Hernandez, both of his trials, gavel to gavel. I've never seen anything as polarizing as this, where people are so absolutely dug in on each side. And that has led to just this firestorm that's existed since about April, when the defense came out swinging that they believe this is a cover-up.
So locally, how is this playing? Because now you guys have confirmed for the first time that there is, in fact, a federal investigation into the investigation of Karen Read and the investigation of the death of John O'Keefe. Give us a little bit of the parameters of what this is about and what everyone is saying about that part of this case.
Yeah, we weren't the first ones to report the federal investigation. That had been out there, but we were the first ones to confirm it. And the way we did that was interesting. I got a tip that the Norfolk County District Attorney, who is the district attorney where Canton is, that he sent a letter to the Department of Justice essentially pushing back on this federal probe, that the Norfolk DA believes that there's a number of conflict of interests that the DOJ failed to recognize and that they're essentially targeting him. So we did a public records request for that letter. And when I got the denial from the Norfolk County DA's office, they denied it, saying, hey, this is confidential information. We don't have to give it to you. That essentially confirmed for me that, yes, we do have this letter in existence. This letter is here.
So at this point, where does everything stand? Do we have any idea whether or not people have been interviewed? Have people given depositions? Have people been put in front of a grand jury? What level of investigation is this federal probe at? Do we have any idea?
We do. Our sources tell us that there is a federal grand jury. We know subpoenas went out, and it's been going on for a long time, that subpoenas, at least one round of them went out on April 10th. A number of people who the state has identified as witnesses, who are going to be witnesses for the prosecution, they've been called in to testify in front of this grand jury. And we know that the grand jury was hearing testimony over the summer. I'm aware of people who testified in July and August. But I have not been able to find or learn of anyone who's testified in front of that federal grand jury since August. And as you know, Vinny, these cases, the federal cases, they can take a really long time. But, you know, there's so much, I think, you know, thirst for information here that people are saying, hey, if the feds have something, if something really exists here that shouldn't, let's hear it. We want to know, because Karen Read's going to be supposedly going to trial in March. I don't think it's actually going to happen then, but that's when she's on the calendar for.
Right. If the federal probe uncovers something, you would think that Karen Read and her team would want to know what's going on there, because that would impact their case, because their whole case is that there was something wrong with the investigation and then it was some level of a cover-up.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine that the feds would let the case go to trial if they have something, which we don't know if they do. If they have something, that the feds would let the case go to trial and play out that way, and then, you know, bring a resolution after that. Or if there's indictments, drop indictments after that. It just seems that there is, the timing of this is super important, and I wonder if the feds believe there is some pressure on them to wrap this up and reach a resolution.
And I want to get your take on what's happening at the courthouse, these huge displays. And I know I've had him on the show, Turtle Boy. I know there's a bunch of Turtle riders out there, his supporters, his listeners. But what's your take on this crowd? Is this his crowd? Is this people from the city of Canton who have gotten wind of what's going on? Like, what is really the genesis and the makeup of all these folks that are showing up at that historical courthouse?
Well, Turtle Boy's done a really good job of sort of galvanizing this large group of people. And I wouldn't say these are necessarily Cantonites. These are people from all over Massachusetts. And these are people who are incredibly passionate about their belief that this is a cover-up and that Karen Reed has been framed, and they're all over the state. You know, we cover a bunch of stories, but this is the story that people always come up and ask me, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What have you heard about this? There's something about this story that's just caught the attention of everyone here in Massachusetts, and I know that there's national interest in it too.
Oh, big time. Big time. So I want to take, since I have you here, I want to take advantage and go through some of the evidence in this case with you and get your take on this evidence and anything else that you know about it. Let's begin. I want to take a listen. This is Adam Lally, District Attorney, talking about the cocktail glass evidence, which I think is extremely important for the prosecution.
The damages to the right rear corner panel of the defendant's vehicle. Embedded within the bumper to that vehicle is pieces of a cocktail glass. The victim, Mr. O'Keefe, is last observed on surveillance video, external surveillance video from the Waterfall establishment that he left just prior to going to 34 Fairview, with a cocktail glass in his right hand. Same arm that's injured, same type of glass that is then recovered from the bumper of the defendant's car.
So, Ted, what's your take on the significance of this cocktail glass and the fragments that were allegedly found?
Yeah, the prosecution needs a way to explain what appear to be those puncture wounds on John O'Keefe's arm. And it appears that this might be a way that they're going to go about doing this, that John O'Keefe had this cocktail glass, and when he was hit and it broke and somehow shattered or somehow dragged his arm. You're looking at the picture right there. And, you know, normally when something like having a cocktail glass would be that important, but I think as we see this case, when it goes to trial, I think that's something you'll be hearing a lot about.
And I heard the DA also, in the argument there, Assistant DA talk about pieces of the glass in Reed's bumper. So the prosecution theory is that she backs into him and then the glass breaks, ends up in her bumper?
Yeah, I mean, if they really do have a piece of glass that they found on her bumper, I think that's important for the prosecution. How else did it get there, Vinny? I mean, I think that is something that I haven't heard a ton about, but it seems like a very logical path that the prosecution would want to go down.
Now, the other big thing is the tail light. Let's take a listen to the defense attorney, David Yannetti, talk about her broken tail light, which is another big issue in this case.
The taillight was intact when she left Brian Albert's house. She came home, and this was Karen leaving to begin the frantic search for John O'Keefe. Now, I don't know that you can see it from the video that you have there, but there is no doubt that when that SUV comes into contact with what is John O'Keefe's vehicle parked in the driveway, you can see that rear tire move forward. It rotates, and you also see the light shatter from the taillight being broken.
So I guess this is another issue in this case. Like, how does the taillight break? Does she smash it the morning after, or does she break it when she is running over and intentionally killing John O'Keefe? This will be significant as well.
I spoke to Karen Reed's parents. I did a sit-down interview with them a few months ago. And one of the questions that I asked her parents is, did Karen say she hit something? Does she remember hitting anything? And they said, Yes, she said to her father, I thought I may have hit something. And their explanation is what you're looking at here, that Karen Reed backed into John O'Keefe's car that was parked in his driveway there. And they're saying, yeah, the taillight's broken because that's the way it happened here. The prosecution, if you look at their filing, they'll say that it appears that it may have touched the car, but it didn't really, move the car. We actually took a real close-up shot of that and spot shadowed it and slowed it down. And it does appear, as David said, that the tires do appear to move forward a little bit. Would that be enough to cause the taillight to break? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. But I know that is certainly huge for the defense, this video right here.
Yeah, like what are the odds that you're accused of running someone over with the back of your car and later that same morning or a few hours later, you back into a vehicle? It's going to be difficult for the jury to deal with that. Now, the big thing, and I know this is what set off Turtle Boy when I spoke to him, which was this Jennifer McCabe Google. Jennifer McCabe, one of the women at the party that night. Let's take a listen to Alan Jackson describe that piece of evidence.
Why is Jennifer McCabe one of the parties that was inside the house that night, the sister-in-law of Brian Albert? Why was she Google searching? How long does it take for a human body to die in the cold? The Apple Cocoa core data indicates, or the core time indicates exactly what time that Google search occurred. That time was at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the morning on January 29th. That's 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found.
I think for many people who believe that Karen Reed is framed here, this is the smoking gun, right? The allegation that there's a search about how long for someone to die in the cold at 2:27 in the morning before John O'Keefe is ever found.
Yeah, that's what that's what the defense led with. I remember the first day that they announced this bombshell change in the case, that is the evidence that they said they had. If you talk to the prosecution, they will tell you that there was a tab that Jennifer McCabe had open, and she opened that tab, and the search was actually conducted in the morning. And what the prosecution is saying is the search was conducted at the request of Karen Reed. So, Karen Reed is the first one to see John O'Keefe's body on the lawn. She's with Jennifer McCabe. And according to Jennifer McCabe, Karen Reed frantically yells, search, how long it's snowing? How long does it take to die in the cold? And Jennifer McCabe went ahead and searched that. I've even tried to I dealt with Celebrite and some of the other cell phone analysis companies. I've shown them this evidence, and I'm like, tell me what you think. And nobody is willing to go on the record and say whether or not they think that search actually happened at 2:27 in the morning, or if that search happened later in the morning when there were other similar searches for how long to die with cold.
That's unbelievable. That is such an important part of this case, and the experts are not going to agree at trial, because I'm sure both sides will have experts that won't agree, but it seems like there's no real consensus in the business as to what it means. Unreal. Ted Daniel, so happy you could be on the show tonight. I hope we'll speak again as the trial gets closer. Boston 25. If you don't live in Boston, go online and check out the stories. Amazing, amazing work. Thanks so much, Ted.
Thanks, Vinny. Good to join you.